Welcome to Unscripted with IMF.
This is the podcast that covers leadership, relevant hot topics, encouragement, stories, and the future of the church.
This is a space for ministry leaders to learn how to ignite change and inspire growth wherever you serve, because IMF exists to serve those who serve others.
Now let's get into today's episode of Unscripted with IMF.
All right, IMF listeners, it is good to have you back again with us. And today we are with two of our friends with Sisters of Grace Ministry. This is Emily and this is Aye. And this is Erica. Erica's the co-host here.
Yes, thank you. Welcome, you guys.
Yeah, certainly glad to have you here. And we are in Minnesota. And as we film this today, it is mid-April and it's snowing outside, just for the record.
No, Aye would be frozen.
Yes, it is very cold, but that's all right because we know that spring is coming, and so is summer, and then of course followed by another yet again long winter.
Oh,
Don't remind us.
Right. Right. So Emily, before we and today's focus really is on Aye and her story and why she's involved in Sisters of Grace. But would you tell us, Emily, a little bit more about Sisters of Grace and the impact that it is currently having?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us on. And we're just excited to be here. IMF is such an important part of Sisters of Grace and our family and y'all's support and prayers. Sisters of Grace is a home for girls that are at risk of human trafficking. So we really believe that prevention is key. We want to get a child before they ever experience the horrors of human trafficking, child trafficking. And in Thailand alone, it is a $1 billion profit, $1 billion industry in child sex trafficking. Wow. And so Sisters of Grace is a beautiful home that we've built up in the mountains of Northern Thailand. And we're so grateful for that location. It was a miracle. God provided every step of the way. We have 4 acres of land. We just built our first dorm, a 42-bed dorm. We just have 15 girls. We just took 5 new girls. But all of our girls come from the hill tribes of the Golden Triangle. And we serve girls that have just come over the borders up in the hills from Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand, of course, and some of the surrounding countries. So that's our mission. Our goal is to rescue little girls at risk of child trafficking, being sold into the child sex trade. And they'll take vans and drive up into the villages and just load up children and drive them all the way 8 hours back to the brothels in Bangkok. So Sisters of Grace is small, but we have plans to rescue just as many as we can. And we're grateful for the opportunity the Lord has given us to do that.
Right. Can you give us I read your stats on how many of these girls are sex trafficked. In case anyone wonders what sex trafficking is, it's forced prostitution is what it is. But the numbers were staggering at the volume of girls that are trafficked and that are engaged in prostitution in Thailand. I was blown away at the numbers.
Yeah. I mean, it's staggering. I think in one city alone, there's like 52,000 prostitutes. That's one city alone in Thailand. Because Thailand is the epicenter. It's the front lines of human trafficking and the sex trade. And so men are flying from all over the world, not just Westerners. We are, receiving Japanese, Chinese, men from all over the world. And they're not just looking for a legal age prostitute. There's all kinds of depravity, and every different street in the red light district in Bangkok is Pat Pong. Yes. Pat Pong is the red light district in Bangkok. And so on one of our recent trips, Aye, I don't know if I can get through this without crying, but Aye decided to take me back to see the red light district because I was like, surely it's shrinking, because they're more code, they're always putting out a new law and stuff like that. So surely it's affecting it. And Aye said, Emily, they have opened up more alleys. Every alley has a different focus in the red light district. And so she went and took me and showed me the one for young boys.
A young boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it was so hard to see, because I have a little guy, I have a little guy at home. I have just turned 8-year-old little boy. And so, we said, if God provides, someday we're going to open a Brothers of Grace, right? If the Lord provides, we'll open a Brothers of Grace someday, because we both have a heart for these young boys. And there was an alley, one whole alley that was in the red light district that was young boy, but then also for just people that speak Japanese.
Yes.
Right. Just Japanese, because they have to train the young girls in the right words to speak and how to say it and how to relate to that culture. And so it's growing, and it's horrible. So that's what we're facing.
And our listeners need to be reminded that these are boys and girls like your children, your son, your daughter.
Yeah.
And these are kids with a mom and a dad. We don't know about their home situation, but we do know that they were, came from a mom and a dad. And so these are kids that are being groomed and conditioned for this. And it is not a friendly, it is not friendly. And people who go there, they support the industry. I should say, not travel to Thailand, but those who indulge in these activities.
Right.
And just because it happens over there, it doesn't mean it shouldn't affect us.
Yeah.
So it's
and Pastor, this is a perfect moment. And it's a rabbit trail, but just to speak to a listener out there that might be listening. Look, if you're engaging in pornography online of any kind, you have no idea what you're supporting. You're thinking, oh, this is my sin. This is something that I have an addiction to. But you could actually be supporting the trafficking of a young girl. You have no idea if that person that you're watching in that pornography, if they're trapped in that sex trade, or if it's free, and even the money that people spend to look at it. So I just want to throw that out. Americans, the numbers are staggering of Americans that are struggling with pornography, and how really so much of that financing is supporting the sex trade and the trafficking, the human trafficking and the child trafficking. A lot of the funds come through online viewing. Yeah.
And it is in the church. This is not just outside of the church. We know from statistics that people inside the church, even pastors, have addiction to pornography.
Yeah.
And it's a significant issue. And so for anyone, any pastor or ministry leader to say, well, it's not my ministry, actually, statistically, it is. It affects a huge part of your congregation, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we know about it or not.
Yeah.
It is a profound challenge, because when I was a kid, if you wanted to look at porn, you had to go over to your friend's dad's house and reach under the couch, or go to the store and go through the shame and embarrassment of actually buying one or trying to steal it.
Yeah.
And nowadays, though, it's delivered on people's devices. It's delivered into their phones. And as a pastor myself, I know that it's a big issue, even in our church, and it has to be addressed. Ignoring it doesn't help. And the money, you're right, it does get funneled to places that we don't think about, that people, but it goes far and wide. It's not just an American issue, it's a global issue now.
Yeah, that's right. It is. Yeah.
So, Aye, and I'm glad that you're on the call for sure. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Pastor, for these opportunities. My name is Aye Chananan. I'm a lawyer in Bangkok, and also act and work as National Director for Sister of Grace.
That's awesome. So why, as a successful lawyer, do you want to invest your time? Clearly, I mean, it's not for the money. We know that. I'm guessing it's for the impact, but why have you decided that, I want to invest in this? This matters to me.
Well, the sex trade industry growing very big, quick, especially in Thailand. And as I live in Bangkok, I could see many young girls and boys are being transferred to Bangkok just for that purpose. And I have to like go back to when I was very young.
Mhm.
Okay, it's a long story, but I will try to make short. I am Hill tribe. I'm Akha tribe who live in the jungle, small village, and I grew up there for until 10 years old. And my mom was addicted to many kind of drugs. My dad passed away, and my mom just has her own ways to go and just leave us behind. So I have to grow up in children homes in the cities, Chiang Rai. So right there, I learned many things, how to grow up in the faith, that's how I starting to know about God and Jesus.
Hold on, sister. So for anybody who has trouble with Aye's accent at all, I just want to reiterate that she's saying she's from one of the hill tribes. One of the hill tribes is the Aka, and she grew up in a children's home that offered her some things, like taught her faith, taught her about Christ.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I live in children's home for 6 years until I finish my high school level. And in that house, they did supply us some necessary thing that we need. But I have my experience where I feel like a children's home should be more than a place where I can get food and education and house.
Mm-hmm.
Children's home should be a family who fulfill our heart, and we can always come back to that house, like come home.
Mm.
Yeah, I have that feeling for that moment.
She wants that.
I want that.
She wanted that to
Right.
be what was her experience,
Yeah,
but it wasn't her experience.
but it wasn't there. And this is my thought back then, that I thought all of the girls who live with us, for like 120 girls in one children's homes, I thought they might want just like what I want. I want a feeling of families. I want them to hug me and ask me sometimes, what's your day? I need some kind of these questions to me. So I think that will have a big impact to all the girls, but it never happens. So then after I finish my high school, I have to choose my path, because the children's home just said that if you go to college outside of the cities, we won't support you. I have no one to support me. And in Thailand, in the small cities, it's very hard to get a part-time job. Very hard. Or in my time that they have is restaurant where we have to serve alcohol that I shared you yesterday.
Yeah.
We don't have much of shop like in America or big cities like Bangkok that have like bakery shop, coffee shop that we can work as a part-time. So it's very hard to earn small monies to support myself, to do more education.
How old were you, at that point?
18.
18 at that point.
Wow.
18 at that point when I finished my high school. But thank God, this is the first year in Thailand that the government announced offer the student loan, no interest charge. Student loans offer the first year in Thailand. It's my years.
Wow.
Yeah, a miracle.
It's a miracle.
And so you went from 18, being penniless, to going to college and now being an attorney.
Yes.
How did that happen? Did you apply for college? Tell me about that journey you made.
We have to test in to a college. Every college they will consider your education score from high school, and then you have to test in. So that's how it happens. So when you test in, that's not all of the process to become a student in law school. You need to put the deposit. It costs a lot of money. And for sure, I really need someone to back up me for financial, but there's no one to back up me back then. But it's a miracle. Like I just shared that it's the first year that Thai government have the student loans policies. And that's how I can start my path to become
And you told
lawyer.
me you had to have a cosigner
yes
on the loan.
and yes
And she couldn't even get anyone to
To sign
co-sign
for me.
for her, an 18-year-old going co-sign this massive loan for me. And so Aye, again, she's so smart. She got excellent scores on all her tests. And so she went tell them where you went to
And
get your
then-
co-signer.
yes, I almost forgot that part. It's very important part, Preston. We need a cosign from like who has a freedom in financial, who has capacities in financial thing, or
They have to prove they have the ability to co-sign
yeah,
financially
or
able to cover.
or anyone who is a big high level of government officer.
Or a government officer. Okay.
Yes. So that's how I get that loan. I run back to one government officer who know me since I was very young. Because when I was in high school, I started to be private tutoring for his daughter.
Smart.
That's how it started. So I ran back just to report him that, oh, I passed the test I got this college offer, and they offer me half of scholarship, but just half of the tuition fee. And I need more money to cover my tuition fees. And I have no one to pay for me, but they have student loan. But again, I have a problem. No one co-sign for me. I need someone to help. And this,
The Lord.
yes, the Lord really put this kind of heart, very gentle heart, into this government officer. He just said that, no problem. Bring over our documents, you
Wow.
get signature. I will sign for
Wow.
you. This is how happens.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a God story for sure. So how did you two meet?
So Aye, the children's home that she grew up in, I was serving as the international director. So I was stateside and I would come over and visit. And I made sure every girl had a sponsor. And so sometimes we talk about some of the things that she experienced on the ground that, we wanted to do it. We want to do different at Sisters of Grace. And I think that's a part of, what God does, right? He brings people together and they plan a new ministry and they say, okay, how can we do it different? How can we do it the way that we feel like the Lord is leading us to do it? And so I was the international director for 15 years for 2 different children's homes. And then Aye and I crossed paths at that point, but it wasn't until years later, and we didn't stay close. I mean, we knew each other from that children's home, but we didn't stay close. It wasn't until exactly God's timing, exactly the right year that 2018, I was there with my baby because I'm insane and took my baby twice before the age of 2 to Thailand because I hate leaving my babies behind. So I just decided I would take him with me on the 22-hour airplane flight.
Yes.
Insane. Thank you. So I took him with me, and the only person I knew living in Bangkok that could drive over quickly, I still had her information, even though we had not remained close. And I called Aye and said, will you come and watch the baby for me? I have meetings I have to attend. And Aye drove over to watch Everett. Yeah. And that was how the Lord reconnected us. And within a year from that moment, we were starting Sisters of Grace.
Yes.
Wow.
That's so cool. I love how both of your testimonies intertwine in a sense of that, and how amazing it is that, like, for Aye, your greatest pain is something that produces the greatest ministry. It's beautiful.
That's so true.
Yes.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot, actually.
Right.
How
Right.
God took pain that we both have gone through in our lives and
Mhm.
birthed this new ministry. And what a joy, like literally like a rainbow baby. You hear people talk about rainbow babies, you know, a baby that comes after a loss, like literally like that. This children's home, this ministry is that much healing for Aye and I, as well as for the girls we serve.
Join the IMF staff July 15th to 18th at Columbia International University in South Carolina for our annual chaplain training event. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to connect with fellow chaplains, gain valuable insights, and take your ministry to the next level. If you're not a chaplain, you're still invited to our worship and ordination night on July 18th. For more information and to register, visit www.imfserves.org/CTE24.
So what's next for Sisters of Grace?
So our next building that we want to build is the gym. And so
Multi-purpose.
multi-purpose gym, and we're really excited about that as the next building that we want to build. We've got the 4 acres of land. We have a 8-foot concrete perimeter wall that spans 1,500 square feet. It is huge. It's like we call it the Great Wall of Chiang Rai, because we painted it, so we
Yes,
know exactly
yes, how big it is.
how long it is. It was exhausting. But we've got that up. So we've got the perimeter wall up. We've got the gates. All of that is beautiful. It's just allowing this huge piece of property, these 4 acres, allowing it to come to life the way the Lord wants it to. And we just accepted 5 new girls. So we're going to continue to accept girls every year at the pace that we can. We want to continue to follow after some of the things that we don't want to compromise in this ministry, like the family dynamic and the fact that we want every girl to have an individualized program and mental health, a focus in mental health and healing programs and that kind of thing. So we're growing slow, we're building, and the future is bright. We have lots of things ahead that we want to do and take the girls to do for the ministry.
Mhm. So Aye, what has been one of your biggest challenges that you've had to face in country? Is the government favorable of what you're doing, or are you facing local troubles or family, or give us some insight in what you're facing right now that's difficult?
Running the children homes in Thailand is in the ways that we are doing, okay? In the way Sister of Grace doing is very challenged with the relative or relative of the girls that we rescued. That is the most challenge.
Yeah.
Because most of the relatives, they don't really want to provide care or love them. But once we do somehow like heal them, they completely becomes a new person. The relative will come over, come back, and try to take them back.
Yeah.
This is the most challenging thing. And yes, it is also the laws that we are private children homes. So we cannot say that, no, we cannot say like this to relative because they are still a legal guardians of the girls we rescued. So this is the part that we are still very like,
yeah, it's a huge problem. The girls, we take a little girl, just for an example, a specific child, like we took Barbie. Okay, she comes to Sisters of Grace. All the girls have nicknames, so but Barbie came to Sisters of Grace. She's struggling with stealing. She wets the bed, struggling with, so many mental health, physical issues, all sorts of stuff. So within
Barbie is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Yes,
Mm.
she's 10 years old and she's malnourished, so she's thin and, in sick. You can see in many ways. Barbie actually grew up in a prison. She was born, her mother was pregnant when she was sent to prison, and she was born inside the prison and never saw the outside of the prison walls until she was like 2 or 3 years old.
2 years.
2 years old.
Yes.
And her grandparents came to get her. So all those beginning stages of your life that are so important with your nurturing and everything that a baby needs, she missed out on all of that. So anyway, Barbie comes to us. We have seen total transformation in this child, right? Total transformation. She is one of our best leaders. She is healthy. She has come completely out of she was isolating herself and the stealing. And she is just like the butterfly, kind of thing. Like, I'm talking transformed. So what happens is the parents come to visit, or a grandparent comes to visit, and suddenly they see a strong, healthy, she's had, 2 or 3 years of education. Oh, this child can work now. So a little girl that we consider one of our daughters, one of the family of Sisters of Grace, now some relative, aunt, uncle, grandparent is saying, technically, I'm her guardian, so I want to take her back to work in the fields now, up in the mountains. So we're not having that happen yet, but it's a constant battle. IA is constant negotiations and conversations with the family members, why that's not as beneficial. Please don't do this. So it's been especially for IA, the extra stress and pain that she's suffering with trying to hold on to our girls that are healing.
Right. So once they turn 18, when do they age out?
We don't have that really. We
Not
don't we don't really have that, because so first of all, we send our girls to start getting part-time jobs as early as 15.
15.
Yes. So every summer, a lot of children's homes, the children's home that IA grew up in,
We will be sent back to the village. If we
every
still
school
have,
break,
yes,
every school break, they
every
send them
school
back.
breaks, they will send us back to the village if we still have a place to go. If we don't have a place to go, they will definitely find maybe one of the girls in the children homes might welcome, you are welcome to my home. So anyway, we have to be sent out from the children home every school breaks. But as Sisters of Grace, we do
Totally
the
different.
easiest part, the easiest way.
Easiest. You
Easiest way.
can't see the sarcasm in her voice.
Easiest way.
Air
So
quotes.
every school break, before school breaks, I have to drive to many bakery shop, coffee shop, asking, can you cooperate with us? I have a girl, blah, blah, blah. I need your help. Can you accept her as a part-time? So I can send them.
Yeah.
So every morning during school break, I have to drive them to many shops.
There's a mom listening to this right now that is like crying. Like, I understand, because as moms, we just become the chauffeur for our kids. But I started that to explain that our girls, we try to get them work experience, which is so hard to get in Thailand, especially at a young age. Our girls, by the time they get to 18, they have a resume, they have work experience, and IA and I work together with that young woman to help her achieve her goals. And so if she wants to move out, she can move out. If she wants to stay at the home and get a job for a season, she can do that.
Yeah.
We try to talk to them about which ones want to go to the college, which ones don't want to go to college. We don't push our girls to all go to the university. They can go to vocational college, that kind of thing. But the difference that IA and I want to make in the lives of these young girls is that they are our family.
Yeah.
So there's no aging out. They're not a number. They're not just another kid in this orphanage. They're our daughter. And just like you wouldn't tell your 23-year-old daughter, sorry, you aged out. We really want our girls to have that. So luckily, the programs that we put in place with helping them discover what they want to do, part-time jobs, preparing them, all of our girls get to like 18 and 19 and they're like, I'm out.
Yes. This is what happens.
They want their own place, but we continue to financially support them, emotionally, and check up on them. But there could be in the future a young woman who lived at the home, even into her 20s, if she needed to, until she was ready to go out on her own. Yeah.
Right. So how do you deal with you know, you're dealing in a world that the emotions run high. Sometimes things don't always work out. Some of these girls are just, they're so broken.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that whole emotional side, you as a leader?
Yeah. IA and I do a lot of counseling when I'm in country. We'll do counseling together. But IA does hours and hours and hours of counseling when I'm not there. When I am there, it's just kind of like extra backup. But even I will go into a counseling session with IA and we both hope it'll be 1 hour. It'll be, you know, and sometimes we'll sit with girls 4 hours talking through, why do you feel this way? Think about what you're doing. Why are you doing it? So the mental health counseling, the focus, we had a young woman who's got a double master's degree, Anna Packer. If she's watching, I love you, Anna. Thank you. She wrote a mental health curriculum for our girls, specifically for our girls, so they can go through that. It's like group counseling sessions and stuff, but it is, IA jokes about the easiest way. We picked the hardest possible path, Pastor. We have our little girls, unlike a normal children's home, the kids are all line up, get in line, do as you're told. We'll have total emotional outbursts. Girls will throw themselves to the ground. We have girls that just refuse to participate. We'll be sitting in the hall. We don't use any form of corporal punishment. We don't beat or hit the girls in any way. Everything is timeouts or a little bit of extra chores and mostly hours and hours and hours of talking.
Right.
Which the girls have actually begged IA, just beat me.
Right. So I guess, let me ask that again. I was asking, how do you each handle the emotional toll that it takes on you as leaders?
Oh, that's a good question. Pastor, we need to do more of that. IA gave me a face massage 2 days ago, and I felt like I was going to cry through the entire thing because it's real, and especially for my sister who's day in, day out, front lines. You know, IA and I, that's why we brought her to America. I just wanted to give her 2 months away from everything, relaxation. We pray together. She calls me and we talk through, so she doesn't feel alone. And so much of the decisions, we really partner together in the decisions, the counseling. What can we do? We call Anna Packer. We call another counselor who helps us. We have just decided to put together a team of ladies. So we want support. But self-care, we're not great at self-care. We need to get better at it. Is that what you're asking, Pastor?
Yeah, I you know, you hear the term compassion fatigue. It's when you see all of you see so much pain and so much difficulty that eventually it's hard to, you know, care for them. And so that's a very real issue. But when it comes to leadership, you're dealing with broken people all the time. And I'm just wondering, you know, as a leader, how do you have to process what you're feeling with other people? That's important. Otherwise, you know, it just, it doesn't work. You become emotionally unhealthy yourself. So because we're dealing with a lot of leaders are listening to this, and they deal with difficult things too. So I think it's good when we share our own stories on how we deal with the trauma of ministry, of seeing the brokenness at the scale that you do, and how do you know, care for yourself in that.
And it not only takes a team to make this ministry grow and God's blessings to fall on these young girls, but also it takes a team to, you know, do that self-care, like Emily mentioned, is she's tagging along with these other people that have this strong call and want to love and take care of each other. So that's great. What kind of advice would you guys have for someone that's interested in coming into a ministry such as Sisters of Grace?
Or partnering with Sisters of Grace.
Well, first I want to just go back for a second. One thing I wanted to share for pastors or ministers listening that the Lord gave me was on a spiritual level, that the Lord reminded me with caring for the broken, caring for those that have been hurt, that the Lord really taught me something that I have to go back to, and it helps me to renew my faith often, is the Lord was like, Emily, no matter no matter how much you love these children, no matter how much you love the little girls that you're rescuing, in the end, are you doing it for them or are you doing it for me? What's the number one reason you're doing it? And that is something that I have to constantly come back to. And the Lord reminds me, like, ultimately, though, I love these little girls. I adore them, but ultimately my number one purpose is serving him. And so that allows me to renew myself to know, first of all, I worship him. First of all, I'm with him. First of all, I do this ministry for him. And that way, some of that pressure is lifted, right?
Mm.
The weight of leadership is lifted in a lot of ways, because if I'm doing it first for him, then it doesn't all ride on my shoulders, right? I'm not the one that has to rescue every little girl. I'm first serving God, and then next I can serve these children as he allows me to. So anyway, I don't know if that's encouraging to somebody listening, but it's easy to get your focus on those that you're serving rather than on who you're serving.
Yeah,
Mhm.
motives,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, we'll come back to Erica's question here too, but do you do short-term missions? Do you bring
Oh,
groups
this is
over?
amazing. This is what we are looking for, Pastor. Exactly.
Yes.
Short-term missionary.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, she's talking about a short-term missionary that like lives on campus,
Yes.
which is
Okay.
something we've been praying for. But we also do short-term mission teams that go for like 2 weeks.
Mhm.
You
Right.
don't want to go to Thailand for any less than 2 weeks because it takes 2 days to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a minute to get there. Lots of sleeping pills for the flights. We always tell people, but the teams are a huge blessing, Pastor, because especially right now, remember, a lot of children's homes and places, mission field opportunities that you go to would just be evangelism, which is wonderful. But at Sisters of Grace, we have 4 acres of land that all need gardening, work projects. We want to do a volleyball court, which it isn't expensive to do, but somebody's got to get out there and pour all the sand and get the poles in the ground. So there's so many opportunities to travel with Sisters of Grace. If you're listening and your church family wants to go, you can connect directly with me and we can talk about training a leader to lead your team, and I can meet up with you. Aye can meet up with you in Thailand.
I always waiting right there.
She's waiting right
Yes.
there when you get off the plane.
Right. And this is for men and women, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
We have facilities on campus that a team of women could stay in the dorm. And then we have a guest house and a place that is literally right around the corner from Sisters of Grace where teams can stay, men and women. And it's really good for the girls to have the men. The American men just are very different from the Asian culture with affection, playing with the girls. It's good for them to see that dad figure and that can actually, help them. We got a bunch of bicycles for all the girls, but only like 8 of them can ride bikes.
Yeah.
So every time I go, I'm like running, I'm getting my exercise. If you've ever taught a kid to ride a bike, you end up exercising more than they do. So there's great opportunities. It's a fantastic trip. We always do tourism, take the teams to see some of the really cool sites. There's the giant Jade Palace right in the center of Bangkok. You have to fly into Bangkok. It's an hour flight up to the mountains where we're at, and you fly out of Bangkok again. So it's a gorgeous, gorgeous country, but Sisters of Grace has a lot of opportunities to bring teams and help.
Nice. Erica, final words?
Well, it's just so great to meet you. I've known Emily for maybe a year and a half.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing what Sisters of Grace is doing, and it's bringing that awareness to what's really happening there and how people can get involved.
We're blessed to have you part of the IMF family, and we pray for you on a regular basis, and certainly I'm grateful for the lives that are changed. And I'll say this, is that sometimes people say, like, why are you doing this? There's so many people in the trafficking industry and you're helping a handful. And you're like, well, what difference are you making? I would say, ask one of the girls what difference you're making. Ask Barbie what difference you've made. In the other, 14, ask them what difference you made.
Yeah.
And that makes it worthwhile that you're changing doing the best you can to change a life.
And someday with 2 dorms, which we hope to have, we'll be, IA and I'll be serving, rescuing up to 80 to 100 girls at a time. And so the Lord has big plans, and sees everyone, every single little one. Yeah. he sees
Absolutely.
them all.
Well, we certainly love your hearts, and it's been great talking with you today.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
We love you,
Thank
IMF.
you.
My fan. I'm a big fan of IMF.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Erica. God bless.
Thank you.